I've been researching a bit since last stream regarding Second Thought. Because his video really stuck with me. The way he talked in it, the way he presented the information, the way he formulated his non-arguments. And they really were non-arguments. So I did some research. I looked into some videos. And I've collected some, at least, as far as I have gotten. The most interesting part in my discoveries, he has a video here and about North Korea. And he compares it towards South Korea. And like, all that separates them is a border and authoritarianism. I'm like, this was 4 years ago? You went from acknowledging a liberal democracy being better than a fascist regime that oppresses its citizens. So yeah, he used to, 4 years ago, Second Thought was actually, like, reasonable. He understood that, North Korea, as horrible as the West is, as dystopic as South Korea is, at least it's not North Korea, you know? At least you're able to critique the nation. He even questioned how many North Koreans actually understood how their own country worked. But then, I find this response to Second Thought, and I'm like, oh, interesting. And I go, wait, why did he delete that? What is this? Because I also assumed this was the first time I've ever watched a Second Thought video, but I was wrong. I've seen this. I've seen this exact video. And it came out 9 months ago. So 3 months after the Second Thought video. I've seen it here. Now, why was it deleted? I can only assume it has to do with this. That's the only way I can make this rationalize it, you know? How many does he show how many views it had? 71,000. Let's see. What was Hakim's channel name? Ya boy Hakim, that's right. If we go to Social Blade, when did it get deleted? He purged a lot of videos here. June 6th. Can we get full monthly stats? We can't get further back. But I want to see. Damn, boy. Whoa. Damn. Like, that is a drop of videos. Because that video does not... That's not a TOS strike that made them delete the video. Whatever. This is Hakim erasing history. Back in June. When did... No, the deprogram pod has been going on for longer than that. The deprogram pod. Oldest. A year. Wait. I'm guessing this is when they start uploading to YouTube. I used to use Buzzsprout. Oh, okay. That's just weird. Why not just wait one day or whatever, you know? Okay. But 2021. Yeah, so that's actually 2 years by now. In 2 weeks, it's been 2 years since they uploaded it. But yeah, it seems something happened in June that made him just delete the videos. It's strange. It's that's interesting. That's actually we might watch that. But there is one reason why I want to bring this up, by the way. It's a very important reason. And it's in the beginning of the video, of the Hakim video. And I have to take it from Vosh's channel here. I don't want to be an orbiter. I actually actively try to avoid talking about Vosh. I do follow him. I am a fanboy. I can't deny that. I've even leveraged his channel to get some eyeballs on me. So, or his streams. But I don't want to be an orbiter. I want to stress that. But I do have respect for him. I do have an affinity for him. An affinity? Is that an affinity? Sometimes. Yeah, a natural. Yeah, I have an ideological kinship. It feels he opened my eyes to some libertarian socialism, to workplace democracies. I've said this before. Never mind. I don't want to be an orbiter. I have to.
So, assuming everyone...
Nope.
Somebody linked this. What if North Korea was a democracy? Response to second thought and face reveal. Face reveal from Hakim? That's crazy. What if North Korea was a democracy? Let me vibe check the video.
Hello. Yes.
Hi.
Voice
This is not what I want.
Right, all jokes aside, very sick Hakim here with
Yeah, the thing that I like about Hakim is that, okay, tankies
Big
are,
yellow and Bosch. Oop.
but Hakim as an individual is not what's the term? Unretarded.
There we go.
So there's an interesting dialectical synthesis
Now I'm Vosh.
between some of the positions that he holds, but also his large, wet brain. And I like that, you know? I respect that.
Can I? No,
another video. Everyone has had a political journey towards becoming a socialist. Likewise with our beautiful baby boy JT from Second Thought. Years
I don't like socialism with a picture of Stalin there.
ago, he put out this video, titled, What if North Korea became democratic? I thought we'd go through it kind of as a case study of all the all-permeating liberalism people are force-fed and forcibly taught throughout their entire lives, how that results in this form of political analysis. Of course, JT is an absolute Sigma Chad now, and he's kept this video up on his channel to show how all of this stuff can be unlearned and how people can go in a correct political direction. I do apologize for the stuffiness of my voice. Usual side note, there will be a nuanced presentation of the conditions of the DPRK.
Okay, that's all I needed. That's all I wanted. He kept it up to show how it can be unlearned. That's not why he keeps it there. That is so not why he that might be the reason he gives you. That might be the reason he has convinced himself of even. Am I still crooked? Yeah. I need a compass, a water leveler on top of my camera. I realized. That's not the reason he keeps it there. Because if he did,
Hi there.
Second thought. if that's actually the reason. No, wrong. North Korea I wanted, not North Korea. If that's actually the reason, A, he'd make a debunk himself. But he doesn't want to do that. He absolutely doesn't want to do that. Why? Because he wants to dupe you. That's why. He's not an honest actor. He wants you to be able to, oh, what's second thought's opinion on North Korea? And he's like, oh, he seems reasonable. You know, that's the reason why. I haven't watched this, so I don't know, but I'm going to guess he's saying it's not that big. And I agree, it's not that big. And? That like, it's not a debunk of anything. How can we denuclearize the world? Anyway, so I find it very interesting how he lies. I feel like I need to look into close that. I feel like I need to look into not groupthink, cults more. A lot more, even. Anyway, I collected some links.
And the various bourgeois.
I'm just gonna open some of them.
Okay.
Just to
For what it's worth,
give you guys a
those
an illustration of what I'm talking
and
about.
of course,
here.
And the various.
Okay. Here we go. This, just a minute. Him talking about, what was it? Immediately, my memory. Were the Nazis socialists? But that's not...
And the various.
Okay. Was Nazi Germany socialist, okay?
Various bourgeois governments that ruled Germany under the Weimar Republic prompted more and more Germans to look for an alternative to capitalism. Specifically, they turned to socialism. Between 1928 and 1932, for example, the Communist Party more than doubled its membership. People were turning to the left en masse and at an unprecedented pace. The Communist Party was still a parliamentary minority, to be sure, but industrialists feared that these trends would continue and that socialism would come to end their monopoly over the means of production. What's more, German workers had recently won the right to unionize and secured the 8-hour workday and unemployment insurance. No one knew how far these trends would go, and capitalists couldn't afford to find out. It is in this context that the Nazis and industrialists found common ground, with the industrialists hoping the more authoritarian character of the fascist platform would be used to quell labor. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can we?
It is in this context that the Nazis and industrialists found common ground, with the industrialists hoping the more authoritarian character of the fascist platform would.
Authoritarian? Hold on.
Okay, that's.
Are we just gonna say that?
The liberal part taken care of. Now it's time to have a little chat with my friends on the Western left. The right does a very good job at presenting a unified front. The capitalist class and the forces of
I can still not... I'm still distracted by the out-of-focus face, but the in-focus body. Is he sitting like this to make his... Like, what's going on? Are you making your neck smaller? How big is your neck actually if you need to do that, okay?
Reaction are incredibly powerful in the imperial core. The left is already on the back foot, and we have been for many, many years. This is why it's frankly absurd how much infighting goes on among the left. Social Democrats sniping at tankies for being authoritarian doesn't do the movement any good. Funnily enough, the label authoritarian is only ever applied to successful socialist projects.
Like, I know in the beginning of the video, he's like, it's not exclusively, what is his,
To demonize their opponents. Big surprise. Yeah, that's all well and people believe to be the greatest evil in history. As their
whatever. Somewhere in the beginning, somewhere in the beginning, he says, like, it's not exclusively applied to communist state, but bruh, shut the fuck up. You can't make, and by the way, this came out a year ago. It's a year apart, almost to the date, between these two videos, where he calls Nazi Germany correctly authoritarian, or the Nazi ideology authoritarian. But he refuses to apply that label to any communist state because, well, it's so diffuse. We can't apply it anywhere. Fuck you. Of course we can.
Those soldiers.
And here we have a video. What happens to rich people under socialism? Remember what he said in the authoritarian video? Why is my camera doing like acting up today? And when I mean the camera, I mean me for not correctly not installing it, but applying the whatever. 3 weeks ago, or not 3 weeks ago, in the previous video, he talked about doing the whatever. I'm gonna bring it up. I need to bring it up actually.
And they're US-based. There's a reason Germany banned everything related to the Nazis, for example. It's because apparatus to keep.
Oh yeah, and I misinterpreted this.
There's a reason Germany banned everything related to the Nazis. For
like I assumed he was talking. Like I misheard him. I misunderstood him. But I did a text in my previous video on that. But, I think my points still stand. Like apply it to Nazi Germany, perhaps.
Have been like it or not, they are necessary.
Here.
These things may not be morally correct, but like it or not, they are necessary.
So they are necessary. Suppression of thoughts. Suppression of different ideologies. Suppression of free speech. Secret police. Gulags, work camps, concentration camps. They're all a necessary evil,
And that's something that every system has agreed on. I would love nothing more than to see an alternative work, but it never has. Maybe one day I'll be proven wrong. That would be amazing. But
again, he's lying here. He's so lying here. Because what happens to rich people under socialism? Let's hear. This came out 3 weeks ago. So that's not even 3 weeks between them. It's like over like just a week between them.
You're still skeptical. No problem. Here's another reason you shouldn't be worried about what happens to rich people under socialism. Most socialists are very anti-punishment. Just talk to your lefty friends and you'll see. Most socialists today are at the forefront of the restorative and transformative justice movements, as well as the prison abolition and anti-death penalty movements. The most famous representative of this socialist position is probably someone like Angela Davis, who's campaigned for all of these causes for decades. The idea of punitive justice, or the eye for an eye logic that governs a lot of our justice system today, is deeply unpopular in the modern left, and one of the things that socialists are adamantly against. In parallel to socialist ideas about changing systems, we would much rather make crime less economically necessary or less enticing by ensuring everyone's needs are met unconditionally than by threatening people with a violent state apparatus.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I must have misheard you. I'm sure I just misheard you here.
That's the liberal part.
No, I don't want to share it. I'm sure I just misheard you
Taken care
here.
of. Now it's time to have a little chat with my friends on the Western class, and the forces of reaction are incredibly powerful in the Imperial core. The left is already on the back foot, and we have been for many, many years. This is why it's frankly absurd how much infighting goes on among the left. Social Democrats sniping at tankies for being authoritarian doesn't do the movement any good. Funnily
Yeah, it's not the same movement though, is it?
enough, the label authoritarian is only ever applied to successful socialist projects. The ones that failed were somehow more pure. But the moment a new system takes steps to ensure the security of their people and their new project, they're
Of their people. We need to protect the future of our people. What is it? No, not that. We need to protect the future of our people. The 14 word. Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, of course. We must secure the existence of our people and the future of white children.
For what it's worth, I don't.
Very similar language. Very similar language. But then why, like, he doesn't believe this.
Don't think Putin is.
most socialists are very anti.
Most socialists. I agree there. Most socialists. That's not you, is it? Because the things you're saying that socialists want here, the things you're saying that rich people shouldn't fear, is not you, is it? Second thought. Is it, JT? You're not
Justice,
this.
or the socialist idea.
This is not you. That's you.
enticing by ensuring everyone's needs are met unconditionally than by threatening people with a violent state apparatus.
Like China, like North Korea, Russia, Iran, you name it.
We would much rather strip people of their power over others and institute a more developed democracy that extends to the workplace. than
Yeah.
allow
I love this as well. I love this as well.
a few to gain power through exploitation and punish them when they, predictably, use that power to those ends. Or institute a more developed democracy that extends to the workplace than allow
We need to extend democracy to the workplace. I agree. How do we do that? How do we extend it to a workplace? Do we have power over there in government? Well, maybe in some instances, in some cases, in some transitional power, perhaps, sure. But without representative elections,
a few to gain power through exploitation and punish them when they, predictably, use that power to those ends. Socialists promote structural change first and foremost, and are against punitive justice as a way to solve structural issues. The idea that this would just not apply to those who happen to be wealthy is possible, but realistically very unlikely.
what? Did you hear that? Did you catch that? Let's hear that one more
Happen to
time.
be wealthy is structural issues. The idea that this would just not apply to those who happen to be wealthy is possible, but
It's possible, but it's not realistic, but it's possible.
realistically very unlikely. And of course, this isn't to say that a socialist society would be without the means to punish people who commit crimes. Historically, after every revolution, there have been elements, often funded by one of the capitalist powers, that tried to undermine the socialist project through acts of terror. This wouldn't be acceptable in a socialist society any more than it is in a capitalist one. Those people would still face the consequences of their actions, whatever those consequences are determined to be. But on the whole, the goal
Whatever those consequences happen to be. Whatever they happen to be. And another thing.
society any more than project through acts of terror by one of the capitalist powers that tried to undermine the socialist project through acts of terror.
What do you think JT classifies as acts of terror here? Now, call me crazy, but if he's okay with a secret police, if he's okay with indoctrination of kids into the secret police, I'm assuming acts of terror from capitalism here is thought police. Hey, Screen Dream. Operation Mongoose? I'm not familiar with that. I need to be better at history and theory, actually. That's partially why I'm doing the streams. Operation Mongoose? Against Cuba that aim to remove... okay. Yeah. This is American shit. Of course. America's done a lot of stuff. Stuff like that is part of the reason why socialism has failed at every turn, in my opinion, and why authoritarian states have succeeded. Authoritarian states, the one thing that we can agree upon when it comes to authoritarian states, when it comes to totalitarian states, is that they're very, very good at surviving. They are very good at keeping the people in line for a collective goal of propping up the state. Now, I don't think that's a good goal. I think that's a bad goal, because that's just a dictatorship. But Second Thought has other opinions.
This wouldn't be acceptable in a socialist society any more than it is in a capitalist one. Those people would still face the consequences of their actions, whatever those consequences are determined to be. But on the whole, the goal of socialist justice is to be more restorative than punitive, as we saw with the example of the Chinese emperor. I get that all this conflicts with the popular ideas most people have.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Again, he is hiding his power levels here. With modern technology at their disposal, they've gotten real good at surviving. Yes, they have. Automation has helped them very much. Surveillance of the people have helped them tremendously. Mao, Stalin, Lenin, they could only dream about the powers that comes from the modern technological advances. That's that. Right. Okay. So again, in the previous in the previous video, the authoritarian video, Second Thought talks about, and I showed it here, like the necessity to do these immoral, bad things because, hey, every revolution, even the bourgeois revolution of the American against the UK, against the king, against subjugation there, for democracy, every single one of them have been using authoritarianism, though he uses it as a synonym for violence, a synonym for military action. But that aside, he recognizes in that video that, hey, sometimes you have to protect yourself. You have to protect the gains you have gotten against someone willing to take it away. Right? And I agree. You have to protect the gains you've gotten. So, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What is Putin thinking 1 year ago here? Let's see what he thinks about conflict here.
Crazy. But I do think he's been in power a long time and has grown accustomed to doing whatever he wants, regardless of what his advisors have to say. Finally, as a last addendum, don't try to use bits and pieces of this analysis to justify any sort of imperialism, whether that's whatever Putin's Russia is doing or sending Western intervention into Ukraine.
He shows military personnel here, soldiers. But we're not doing that. We're sending arms. We're sending equipment. We're sending weapon systems. We're helping them. We're sanctioning. That's what everyone is that we're not setting foot inside Ukraine with soldiers. We're not attacking directly Russia, but we are prepared to if they continue beyond Ukraine. But we're sending them weapons.
There is no justification for the violence we've seen and for calls to escalate.
This entire video, by the way, he goes, "Oh, no. Russia should never have invaded." Where can I find that? Does it say it here? Is it really in the beginning? No, it's not. Is it? Is it here, perhaps? No. Anyway, he says in the beginning of the video, "Oh, Russia should have never invaded. Putin is a dictator. It's all like, this is on Russia." But he doesn't give Ukraine the right to defend themselves in it.
We can understand the motivations and economic context that has made our current situation more likely without falling into deterministic thinking, that is, assuming all this was destined to happen, or believing these actions are justified. They are not. War isn't a spectator sport as the internet would have you believe. It's not a Marvel movie with clearly defined good guys and bad guys. We should not be rooting for one army to massacre another.
We should not root for one army to massacre the other. That's a very loaded term. That's a very loaded term. I've never rooted for Ukraine to massacre Russian soldiers. If anything, I've rooted for Russian soldiers to surrender, to give up, to go to the front line and go, "Okay, take me in." That's what I've been rooting for. An end to the conflict with Ukraine as victors, as overwhelming victor. In lieu of that, in lieu of a Russian surrender, go ahead and kill them. They are invading you. Go ahead. You need to take action. Necessary moral evils need to be taken to secure the gains you've gotten. That's his argument in the authoritarian video. But a year ago, we shouldn't root for the murder of invaders. Why not? They're trying to remove or trying to take away the gains Ukraine have gotten.
Those soldiers don't stand to gain anything from this conflict. They're normal people just like you and me.
And what about the civilians they're killing?
The only people who will come out on top are those at the levers of power of the bloodthirsty imperialist nations.
Wrong. Wrong. If Ukraine wins, the Ukrainian citizen also wins.
All we should be calling for is for this conflict to be resolved quickly, without a ransacking of Ukraine, without nuclear weapons being detonated, without the expansion of NATO, and through diplomacy. No war but class war.
The old class reductionism. That old idiocy. Like I really want you to think. The last video, the authoritarian video, where he argues this is a necessary evil to secure socialism. We need to expand democracy to the workplace, he claims. But when a budding democracy stands up against an invading force trying to trying to suppress that democracy, we are not allowed to stand up anymore. Because, hey, it's capitalism. Russia is also capitalist. Russia is worse than capitalist. Russia is a fucking dictatorship. But again, he's not a principled socialist. He wants you, his audience, the newbie socialist, the young socialist who hasn't solidified their moral, their principles. to be okay with authoritarianism, to be okay with fascism. I don't think he might not even be aware of it. That's the thing with cults. He might not be aware that he is actually a tanky. I think he is, but he might not be. I'm giving him, like, there's a 10% chance that he's just lobotomized. There are some ugly aspects of it, like our droned orc, where people online celebrate the glorify gruesome footage of murdered soldiers. Yeah, it's a spectatorship at this point. It's the first real online meme war, you know? We've always joked about the meme wars. The Gamergate, that's a meme war. No, this is a meme war. In some things of it, I think it's good. Like it's propaganda, it's nationalistic propaganda. But that's what happens in a nation that is invaded. If Sweden got invaded tomorrow, fuck it, I'm gonna be a nationalist, you know? Against Russia? Yeah, fuck yeah. Rah Sweden in that way. And I'm gonna be joyful when Russians die on Swedish soil. I'm gonna laugh at the turrets flying up, and I'm gonna try to get the high score, you know? But again, it's I understand it, but yeah, it's tasteless at least. It is not good, but I understand it. Who is Second Thoughts? He's Hasanabi's favorite YouTuber. He's on a podcast with two other tankies, Hakeem and Ugopnik, who I think Hakeem, I think, is Iraqi. He's an Iraqi doctor and a tanky. And I think Ugopnik is a Serbian tanky. The alternative is to face it with sober eyes that a human being is being scorched alive, possibly cut in half even by the explosion, and have sympathy for the invader. Look at what happened in Russia. Look. The new Russian pogrom. Pogrom, I mean. Anti-Jewish riots in Russian Dagestan region shows the risk of Putin's balance act on Hamas. Can I get a actual video on this? Oh, here. These people have not been able. Why are you taking forever? No. These people are able to protest, to hunt down, to search for Jews. They're able to invade an airport in Russia in search of Jews. But they can't protest the war? For real? Like, I'm sorry. If you're conscripted into, if you're in Nazi Germany, let's just go there. That's actually the closest analogy we actually can get. The argument is this: if you are in Nazi Germany, and they tell you to kill, to gas, to force Jews into labor, would you do it? That's the argument here. Should you do it? Or should you take the bullet? Should you refuse? Should you perhaps protest the government? Should you desert? Maybe join a counter force inside of Germany. Now that's my opinion. That's what I hopefully think that I would have done, at least. Now I understand it's not that easy. It's like, oh, you're just gonna refuse. You're just gonna take. No. I understand it's not that easy. But that's what Ukraine is doing. They are willing to take the bullet to refuse Russian oppression. They are standing up against oppression. Russians are not. No, some of them are. I understand. I know that. There's even a breakaway nation, or not a nation, a breakaway state inside of Russia. That is, or they're at least trying to break away. They've claimed independence, but they're not recognized by anyone except for Ukraine, I think, which is understandable. But yeah, I'm sorry. It's either they die, we die, civilians die. That's the, like, so I wouldn't have, in order to survive, I don't think you can have sympathy for the invader, you know? Most people would obey over taking the bullet. No, I understand that. People don't want to die, of course. But then they're going to the war into the meat grinder, where they will die. They have far greater control over Russians than Ukrainian soldiers. Yeah. I know that. But that's kind of like, Russian soldiers are freely willing. Like, if Ukraine had wanted to, they could have just not stood up against Russia. If they had wanted to, they could have just taken the subjugation, accepted their dictator. Right? That's an option. The Russian people have chosen that option. And it's complicated, I understand, but it's the shock doctrine fucked them over. They have very little resources, etc., etc., etc. But there are people inside of Russia that stand up to the regime. If you don't, I'm not gonna be sympathizing with you. If you wanna shoot me, sorry, I'm gonna shoot you, and I'm not gonna cry about it. Sure, there's a chance of survival if you're in the battlefield. Yes, that is true. But again, there's a higher chance of survival for Ukraine or for Ukrainians if they hadn't picked up arms, if they hadn't mounted a counteroffensive, right? If Ukrainians wanted to, they could go, good enough, we survive, fuck you, here's the new lines, here's the new border, let's all go home, it's peace, we're done, you know? That's the maximum survival they can have. But they don't. They are willing to take the higher risk of a lower risk of survival for themselves for a greater good. The Russian people, now they have been propagandized from day one, sure. So were Nazi Germany. That doesn't excuse them. I'm not lying awake thinking of the number of conscripts that died in Nazi Germany. Desert. At the very least. Find an opening to surrender to Ukraine. There's a balance to it. It's not like they're all collectively sacrificing down to every single person. No. They're sacrificing conscripts down to the last person. The professional military is, giving giving the orders. They are directing the conscripts to, going to the meat grinder. I've seen the videos of them. They are trained for like 2 weeks before they're sent out. They have zero military experience previously. They are horrible in the field. They have no tactical or strategic thinking. I like in a more like I suffer for the Russian people in general. Don't get me wrong. The Russian people are suffering. The Chinese people are suffering. The North Korean people are suffering. But if they invade, the invaders, the people walking over the line with guns, threatening to shoot me, my family, my friends, my homeland, my country. Sorry. You know what? Okay, let me be spicy here. Let's remove war entirely. Let's talk about PDF files. Let's talk about kitty diddlers. They don't choose to be kitty diddlers. It's not a choice to molest children. Or it's a choice to molest children. That's wrong. It's not a choice to be attracted to children. That's a pathology. That's a brain. The brain is twisted. But they choose to act on it. However, I don't know if you're gay, Scream Dream. How many gay people, despite knowing, hey, I might go to jail. I might get beaten to death. In the 90s, I remember hearing about knacka bögar, gay bashing. You're not gay. That's fine. I heard about gay bashing in the 90s. They still went out and fucked like crazy, They still went out to bars. They still tried to pick up guys. Because this is not lesbians. Nobody bashed lesbians, You didn't see Nazis. You didn't hear about Nazis going out to bash lesbians. They'd rape them. But they'd rape straight women as well. It's not oh, they're lesbians, so we have to rape them. No, it's... They rejected me, so I have to rape them. But that happened with straight women as well. My point is, how long could you go without needed physical contact from people you are attracted to? Like, I can have sympathy for it. Like, I can understand, and when I mean sympathy, or I should say empathy here, not sympathy. I can have empathy for why they're doing it and still condemn it and still see like, no. We need to remove you from society. That doesn't excuse it. I can have empathy for the conscripted soldier feeling a need in order to survive to shoot me. but I'm not going to be lying awake at night over it. It's me or him. It's him or Ukraine. It's dictatorship or democracy. He made a choice. He didn't have to act on it. I don't know how true this is, but I heard my friend, I've mentioned him before. His father is a priest. I think, yeah, he's a priest now as well. Go figure. His father emigrated from East Germany. There's a lot of KGB agents who claimed to be, priests. That was a common way for them to spy in other nations. I don't know if he's one of them. It's possible he's not, but I have suspicions since he's coming from that area. Anyway, so my friend, he told me about his grandfather, who was a pilot in Nazi Germany during the war. And he said, one thing that a lot of German pilots did, apparently, was that they never shot at Allied planes. And the Allies apparently knew this. So they never shot at any plane that didn't shoot back. I don't know how true this is, but this was the story I was told. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me at all. They couldn't get away with that today with all the surveillance we have, with all the technology we have to surveil people. But it's an option. And if I don't hear, you can't feel bad for him after. That's what I keep telling. Okay, because if you start to feel bad for the guy, you're gonna be hesitant to pull the trigger next time. This is it's an underlooked evil of war. Yeah, it is. It's not an underlooked evil of war. It's a necessary evil of war. It doesn't just lead to innocent dying, but forces innocent people to kill. I don't think it forces innocent people to kill. It forces, like if you call soldiers innocent people, but I don't know if I'd go calling a soldier an innocent people, even if they're conscripts. You can always be a conscience objector. I don't know how Ukraine handles that, but there's a lot of people throughout history who's made fuck ton of sacrifices. Hacksaw Ridge, I haven't seen the movie yet, but it's on my list. Is a great, like the person it's about is a real person. He refused to pick up arms. He refused to shoot. The military mocked him. The American military mocked him for this. They forced him to pick up the gun. And he said, I refuse. And he was still sent to the front line where they loved him because he made sacrifices to the people without shooting. The problem with the military mentality, with military training, and when I say training, I mean you're trained to not think of the other person as a person. Not here, not now, after the war, yes, but not right now. Because if you do, you're hesitant to shoot. The problem with this is not that the military views the other person during a war as an evil person. It doesn't care if they're suffering, doesn't care if they die. The problem with this is when it spills over to civilian life, like we're seeing in America. There's a famous video from, did John Oliver do it? Maybe John Oliver did a video on it. I know that Some More News did a video on it, where they're teaching warrior mentality to police officers. That's where the problem comes in for me. The police should never view anyone without empathy, without sympathy, without compassion. Harder to be a conscientious objector in a totalitarian. That's true. I talked about Ukraine there. I meant Ukraine. I don't think you can be a conscientious objector in Russia. But again, there's other things you can do. Okay, let me put it this way then. Sweden is heading towards fascism. I don't think we're going to get there. From all the polling that's done, the current government is tanking their numbers hard. It's going to be interesting coming up next year when we have the parliamentary elections. And the election after that, if the numbers keep going the way they are, or if they're just staying the way they are, Social Democrats, the Left Party, the Center Party, and the Green Party, like, it's gonna be up in the 60%. Isn't it parliament? Or is it? Yeah, isn't it parliamentary election next year? Yeah. European Parliament election 2024. No, that's the next national election. I'm talking about European Parliament, not because is it called parliamentarian? Yeah, the European Parliament. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be a sign of what's to come, of how this government have handled their governing in general. It's not going to be a perfect analogy, I don't think. It's not going to be a one-to-one of how the people feel about the government, but it's going to give an indication at least. Because it's European Parliament, so there might be different topics that are at the forefront of people's minds, like Ukraine. But yeah, it is harder to be a conscientious objector in a totalitarian, authoritarian dictatorship. However, again, if Sweden goes that route, if we become a fascist dictatorship, we have a coup. Jimmy Åkesson is installed as our dear leader for life, you know, which I can't imagine him as a fascist leader, but you know, we've seen goofier in Hitler. And then they say, "Oh, we're gonna fight the Germans. Oh, not the Germans. The Norwegians. We're gonna invade Denmark. Like, they're in NATO, so we're not gonna do that. But still, imagine." And they put a gun in your hand. Would you attack Denmark? No, of course not. Why would you? What have they done to you? Nothing. What's the difference? The difference is Russia has created propaganda. Like if you're 18 years old in Russia today, if you're even 23 years old in Russia today, you've known nothing except for like 4 years where Putin wasn't president. But it's been Putin regime since then. And he has been great at doing propaganda towards his own people. There have been, I can show you here. It's part of some research I am doing on propaganda in general. Where is it? Didn't I set it? There are books in Russian. Comrade, I think it's called Comrade Hitler Russian book. Yeah, here we go. Like, these books have been pushed out for a few years now. See if I saw something. Can I not search? Occurred in the early 2010s as the wave of neo-Stalinist books promoting dictatorship as an effective management tool flooded the market. Like, I understand they have been propagandized to hell under Putin. Sure. Sorry. If I can't hesitate when I have someone pointing a gun at me. If I hesitate, I'm dead. If I hesitate, Ukraine might lose. My country might lose. My fellow soldiers might lose. My company might be wiped out, all because I hesitated. And why would I hesitate? Because there's a human being whose lights might go out if I pull the trigger. I can't think that. I can't have that up here if I'm a soldier. It's a necessary evil, unfortunately. Again, how you handle soldiers afterwards, when they're not in the front line, when the war is won, especially. And I think Ukraine has, if you've listened to how Zelensky is planning post-Ukraine, a post-victory Ukraine, he said the top priority for Ukraine society is to become a world leader on treating PTSD. It's going to be heavy investment into PTSD research and cutting edge treatments. Okay, a timeline then. What happens afterwards? Now, of course, there's going to be a few years where Ukraine and Russia is going to have like a demilitarized area. Or not demilitarized area. I think there's going to be like a standoff on the border for a few years, perhaps. It's going to cool down eventually. During that period of time, in the first 5, maybe even up to 10 years, considering the atrocities that Russia has committed, maybe after Putin dies, and depending on who takes over Russia, we can start to see a normalization of relations towards Russia. But before that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of Russophobia in Ukraine, I'm sure. I can't really blame them. It's going to be hard to blame them, at least. They're going to have to rebuild the entire country. That's going to be, again, dependent on us. How much are we willing to invest? If the regions are not controlled, if all of Ukraine is not controlled by the Ukrainian government, by Ukrainian military, we're not going to invest in them, is the issue. We're going to look at that and go, it could flare up at any moment, and every investment we've made is going to be removed. It's going to disappear overnight for us. It's going to be destroyed again by Russia. So that's going to be hard. They need to control every region. In the entire 1991 borders is going to have to be controlled by Ukraine in order for Western companies, for Western nations to be willing to invest in Ukraine. We're also going to see Far Right is going to surge from bitterness over lost lands. Yeah, if they don't control everything, the far right is gonna say, oh, look at the liberal government failed us. You know, that's gonna be if they win, It's going to be harder for the far right to say the liberal government failed us. So I actually think it's necessary for Ukraine to win back all lands if they're going to have a future at all. And again, that depends on us. But yeah, it's going to take a few years. There's going to be a stalemate. There's going to be tension. But it's going to die down eventually. There's going to be diplomatic relations eventually. They're going to do heavy investments into PTSD research, hopefully, at least if they follow Zelensky's plan. And I don't really see why they wouldn't. I don't think he's come up with a plan of a post-victory Ukraine without consultation, you know? It's not from his mind, just, we should do this and this and this. No. This is meticulously researched and exhausted with the help of not just Ukrainian experts, but international experts, I'm sure. PTSD research, helping every soldier. And he said every soldier is guaranteed a job in the government. Every soldier.